You probably thought they would never actually care. When you finally walked out that door, your mind was likely spinning with the awful certainty that they had already moved on. But what you didn't see, what they tried so desperately to hide from you, was the absolute collapse happening just beneath the surface. It isn't sorrow. It is something darker. We often imagine regret as this quiet, heartbreaking emotion. The kind of feeling that makes a normal person reflect, apologize, and try to heal the damage they caused. But a narcissist does not experience regret like you and I do. For them, regret is not about losing a beautiful connection. It is a violent, six-stage internal reckoning. It is survival. The moment you severed that tie, you triggered a psychological earthquake they were completely unprepared for. You took away their fuel, their control, and the mirror they used to regulate their deeply fragile ego. Now, they are left alone in the dark with the one thing they have been running from their entire life. Themselves. And it is terrifying. I know you have spent countless nights wondering if leaving was the right choice. You have questioned your own sanity because of how cold and detached they seemed at the end. I want you to take a deep breath right now. You need to understand that their silence or their sudden burst of anger is just a very carefully constructed mask. It is an illusion. Underneath that mask, a highly predictable sequence of events is unfolding. They are tumbling through 6 distinct stages of what I call deadly regret. It is a psychological spiral that consumes them, pulling them down into a void of their own making. Today, we are going to walk through every single one of those stages together, step by painful step. Why is it so important that you know this? Because understanding their secret, hidden breakdown is the key to finally releasing your own guilt. When you see exactly how their mind shatters in your absence, you will realize that you were never the problem. You were the only thing holding their fractured reality together. You were their life support. This isn't about gloating or wishing them harm. This is about your healing. It is about validating the immense pain you went through and recognizing the immense power you hold by simply walking away. You finally chose yourself, and that single act set off a chain reaction in their psyche that they can never undo. You became the architect of their ruin. So, let's peel back the curtain. Let's look at the very first stage they hit the second they realize you are actually gone. Stage 1 is pure, unadulterated disbelief. They literally cannot process the fact that their primary source of supply has dared to cut the cord. In their distorted reality, they are the main character. You are just an extra. They always assumed you would come crawling back. They pushed you to the absolute brink, testing your limits, confident that your empathy would always override your self-respect. When you don't return, their brain glitches. This disbelief isn't sad, it is an arrogant shock. They are staring at a script that suddenly makes absolutely no sense to them. But as the days turn into weeks, that arrogant shock begins to curdle into something much more volatile. The silence from your end becomes deafening. The realization that you are not playing the game anymore finally starts to penetrate their thick armor of denial. And that brings us to the terrifying second stage of their inevitable downward spiral. The second stage is a frantic, chaotic scrambling for control. Think of a narcissist like a drowning person who suddenly realizes their life preserver has floated away. Panic sets in, but it is not a panic born of love or missing your laugh. It is the raw, instinctual panic of a parasite losing its host. They are suffocating under the weight of reality. This is when the smear campaigns usually begin, or the sudden, bizarre attempts to hoover you back in. They might send a casual text, as if nothing happened, or they might try to destroy your reputation. It is all the same thing. They are throwing everything at the wall just to see what sticks. They need you to react so they can feel alive again. By stage 3, the panic morphs into a deeply venomous resentment. This is the stage of intense, burning anger. How dare you leave? How dare you expose their flaws by refusing to tolerate their abuse any longer? They are completely incapable of looking inward, so they project all of their shame, failure, and toxicity directly onto your memory. They will rewrite the entire history of your relationship during this stage. Suddenly, you become the villain in their twisted narrative. They have to paint you as the abuser because the alternative, admitting that they drove away the best thing that ever happened to them, would cause a total psychological collapse. Their fragile ego simply forbids it. I know it hurts to think that someone you loved so deeply could turn on you so ruthlessly. But you have to see this anger for what it truly is, a confession. Their rage is the loudest admission of how vital you were to their emotional survival. It is a temper tantrum from an adult toddler who just realized they broke their absolute favorite toy. As the anger burns itself out, they crash headfirst into stage 4, the profound, echoing emptiness. A narcissist does not have a core identity. They are empty vessels that rely entirely on the admiration, fear, and energy of other people to feel real. When they lose a high-grade source of supply like you, that internal void expands exponentially. They try to fill it, of course. They always do. They will jump into a new relationship with terrifying speed, bombarding the next victim with the exact same charm they used on you. But it is just a bandage over a bullet wound. The new supply is never quite enough to silence the nagging voice in the back of their head. The voice that remembers you. This brings us to a truth that very few people talk about. Narcissists do have moments of clarity. Brief, agonizing flashes where the delusion cracks and they see themselves exactly as they are. This is the deadly regret starting to take root. It is a fleeting realization that they are broken, unlovable, and destined to destroy everything they touch. They cannot sustain this clarity for long because it is too psychologically painful. But these flashes become more frequent the longer you stay away. They start comparing the new supply to you, and the new supply will always fall short because they do not have your history, your depth, or your specific brand of patience. The downgrade is so obvious. And in the quiet moments, when the distraction fades and the new victim is asleep beside them, the heavy, suffocating truth settles in. They traded gold for cheap plastic, and they did it to themselves. This is the agonizing transition into the 5th stage. The stage where their carefully constructed fantasy world finally begins to splinter and break. Stage 5 is the haunting realization of irreversible loss. This is where the true gravity of your absence finally lands. The narcissist begins to understand that your departure was not just a temporary fight. You are not coming back. The door is locked, the bridge is burned, and you have moved on. The permanence of it all becomes entirely crushing. Imagine the sheer terror of knowing you pushed away the one person who truly saw you, who tolerated your darkest shadows, and who loved you anyway. They are suddenly struck by the sheer scale of their own self-sabotage. It is a deeply isolating moment. They are surrounded by people, yet they have never felt more profoundly, desperately alone in life. This is the plot twist they never saw coming. They spent the entire relationship trying to make you feel small, trying to convince you that you needed them to survive. But the absolute opposite was true. The moment you walked away and didn't collapse, the entire power dynamic flipped permanently. You took your power back and you left them starving. They might start stalking your social media from fake accounts. They will look for any sign that you are miserable without them. But what do they see instead? They see you healing. They see the light slowly returning to your eyes. They see a version of you that they actively tried to destroy, now rising up stronger and more radiant than ever before. Every smile in your photos feels like a physical blow to their ego. Every milestone you achieve without them proves that they were the dead weight, not you. It shatters the grand illusion they built their entire life upon. They realize they were merely a dark chapter in your incredible story, while you were the absolute pinnacle of their entire life. This realization breeds a very specific, toxic kind of nostalgia. They will start obsessing over the golden days of your relationship. They will selectively remember the moments when you looked at them with complete adoration, conveniently forgetting the abuse that followed. They become haunted by the ghost of the perfect love they threw in the garbage. It is almost tragic in a twisted way. They spend their days chasing cheap validation, but their nights are haunted by the memory of the profound emotional intimacy they shared with you. They realize that they will never find that level of devotion again, because they are fundamentally incapable of reciprocating it. The well has completely run dry. Sometimes, this stage triggers a desperate, final hoovering attempt. They might show up unannounced or send a massive, emotionally manipulative message full of fake accountability. But it is too late. The spell is broken. You see right through the performance now. Their words sound hollow, desperate, and remarkably pathetic. The game is finally over. When they see that their old tricks no longer work on you, something inside them snaps. The absolute failure of their manipulation forces them to confront their ultimate powerlessness. The godlike control they thought they had over you is gone forever. They are just a regular, deeply flawed human being who made a colossal, unforgivable mistake. And that brings us to the final, fatal drop. The sixth stage of deadly regret. This is the point of no return for the narcissist. It is the culmination of all the panic, the anger, the emptiness, and the haunting realization of loss. It is a slow, agonizing psychological collapse that they can never truly escape, no matter how hard they try to run. Stage 6 is the permanent internal rot. It is the inescapable, gnawing reality of a life built on a foundation of lies. They have to wake up every single day knowing they destroyed the best thing they ever had. This isn't the kind of regret that inspires growth or change. It is a malignant, corrosive regret that slowly eats them alive from within. You will never hear them admit this out loud. To the outside world, they will continue to wear the mask. They will post happy pictures with their new supply and act like they are thriving. But you and I both know the truth. Behind closed doors, their life is an exhausting, desperate performance. They are trapped in a prison of their own dark design. The new relationship they flaunt so proudly? It is already decaying. Because they brought the exact same toxic patterns, the exact same insecurities, and the exact same emotional unavailability into it. The cycle is just repeating itself, but this time, they are older, more tired, and carrying the heavy, unspoken burden of knowing exactly what they lost. Their mental health begins to deteriorate. The constant effort required to maintain the false self while battling the subconscious weight of their massive regret is completely exhausting. You might hear through the grapevine that they are drinking more, aging rapidly, or struggling to keep their life together. The karma is quiet, but it is absolute. They become intensely bitter and cynical. As the years go by, the mask slips more often. The people around them start to see the cracks. The charm fades, replaced by a rigid, defensive hostility. They push everyone away, repeating the cycle of self-sabotage over and over until they are left completely isolated. The very thing they feared the most. I want you to really visualize this for a second. Think about the sheer exhaustion of being them. Never feeling safe. Never feeling truly loved because you know you are faking who you are. And constantly being haunted by the memory of the one person who offered you genuine salvation, only for you to spit in their face. It is a living, breathing hell. This is the consequence of emotional murder. When they systematically dismantled your self-esteem, they thought there would be no penalty. They believed they were completely untouchable. But the universe has a very strict accounting system. The pain they inflicted on you has boomeranged back, lodging itself deep into the core of their shattered psyche. You endured the agonizing pain of withdrawal. You cried the tears, you faced the darkness, and you did the grueling work of healing your broken heart. They took the easy way out. They slapped a band-aid on a gaping wound and kept running. But you cannot outrun your own soul forever. Eventually, the bill comes due, and their debt is catastrophic. So, if you are sitting there wondering if they ever think about you, if they ever regret what they did, the answer is a resounding, definitive yes. But you must understand that their regret is entirely about them, not you. They regret losing the benefits you provided. They regret the mirror you held up. They regret the immense failure of their control. Knowing this changes everything. It strips away the lingering fantasy that they were a misunderstood soul who just needed more of your love. It reveals them as a deeply fractured, tragic figure trapped in a never-ending cycle of misery. Their punishment is simply being exactly who they are. You do not need to seek revenge. Their existence is revenge. Now, it is time for you to finally let them go. You have carried the immense, crushing weight of their dysfunction for far too long. You spent months, maybe even years, trying to analyze their every move, trying to decode their silence, trying to find a logical explanation for their cruelty. You can stop now. The heavy lifting is finally over for you. Look at what you survived. You walked through an emotional fire that would have completely destroyed a lesser person. You were manipulated, devalued, and discarded by someone who was supposed to protect you. And yet, here you are. You did not let them turn you into a bitter, resentful shell of a human being. Your beautiful empathy completely survived. The 6 stages of their deadly regret are their burden to carry, not yours. You do not need to stick around to watch the collapse. You do not need to feel sorry for them. Their tragedy was written long before they ever met you, and there was absolutely nothing you could have done to change the final outcome. You were a casualty in their internal war. I want you to take all that fierce, protective love you poured into a bottomless pit and start pouring it directly back into yourself. Imagine the incredible life you can build now that your energy isn't being constantly drained by an emotional vampire. The space they left behind is not an empty void. It is a massive, cleared field for your new life. There will be days when the grief still hits you out of nowhere. Days when a song or a smell triggers a memory and your chest tightens. That is okay. That is just the residual trauma leaving your body. Honor those feelings, but do not let them convince you to look backward. There is absolutely nothing left for you in the ruins of that relationship. You have been given a profound gift, the gift of sight. You now possess a deep, psychological understanding of exactly how these predators operate. You can spot the red flags from a mile away. Your boundaries are no longer just suggestions. They are towering, impenetrable walls of steel. You are no longer prey. You are a profoundly awakened survivor. Let them scramble in the dark. Let them cycle through their panic, their rage, and their endless, haunting emptiness. They are permanently locked in a cage of their own making, doomed to repeat the same tragic mistakes until the end of their days. But you have the keys to your own freedom. You simply have to turn the lock and bravely step outside. Embrace the profound peace that comes from absolute silence. The fact that they cannot reach you, that they cannot trigger you, that they no longer have a front row seat to your beautiful life is the greatest victory of all. You are glowing. You are healing. You are vibrating on a frequency they could never possibly comprehend. Keep rising above it all. As we close this chapter, I want you to make a promise to yourself. Promise that you will never again shrink your incredible spirit to fit into someone else's broken reality. You are worthy of a love that feels like a warm embrace, not a battlefield. You are worthy of consistency, honesty, and deep respect. Never accept anything less ever again. The narcissist will spend the rest of their natural life mourning the catastrophic mistake of losing you. They will quietly bleed out from the deadly regret they can never openly admit. Let them. Your only job now is to shine so brightly that their darkness can never touch you again. They became a forgotten ghost, while you finally became a masterpiece.